In the middle of the vast, unforgiving Pacific Ocean, there lies a small, scorched speck of land shaped like a blackened pear. It has no fresh water, no lush forests, only the overwhelming stench of sulfur and layers of obsidian-dark volcanic ash. The Japanese called it Iwo Jima, Sulphur Island, spanning only 8 square miles. It was a place no sane soul would ever wish to visit. Yet, in early 1945, this desolate rock became the epicenter of the most savage carnage in human history. Why did this tiny dot on the map matter so much? At the time, American B-29 superfortresses were launching devastating firebombing raids on Tokyo from the Mariana Islands. However, the distance was too great for escort fighters to follow, leaving the bombers vulnerable. Iwo Jima sat right in the middle of that path. Capturing it meant providing an emergency sanctuary for crippled bombers and a base for P-51 Mustangs. For Japan, Iwo Jima was the front door to the homeland. If that door fell, the empire fell with it. This confrontation wasn't just a clash of arms. It was a collision of 2 iron wills. The massive industrial juggernaut of the United States led by Admiral Chester Nimitz, and the suicidal Bushido Spirit Japan under a visionary commander. Welcome back to World War II Stories. Today, we step into the 36 days of hell at Iwo Jima. Unlike traditional Japanese generals who favored the glorious but wasteful banzai charges, Lieutenant General Tadamaki Kurabayashi was a terrifyingly practical man. Having studied in the United States and served as a military attaché, he knew one thing for certain. In a head-on battle of firepower, Japan stood no chance. Kurabayashi made a decision that would haunt the U.S. Marine Corps forever. He would not defend the beaches. Instead, he transformed the entire island into a gargantuan termite mound. Over 11 miles of tunnel were hand-dug to the volcanic rock. Thousands of pillboxes and underground bunkers were masterfully camouflaged under the soot. He issued a grim order to his men. Each man must kill 10 invaders before falling. Do not seek a quick death. Make them bleed for every inch. The Japanese were prepared for a war of attrition. They stockpiled food, water, and ammunition deep underground. They turned Mount Suribachi into a multi-story fortress where artillery could fire and then vanish into a mountain in seconds. The Americans wouldn't be fighting an army they could see. They would be fighting the island itself. February 19th, 1945. The American fleet, consisting of over 700 warships, had hammered the island with a localized earthquake of fire for 3 consecutive days. Commanders believed nothing could survive such a bombardment. At 9 a.m., the first waves of Marines hit the shore. But instead of fierce resistance, there was a deafening, terrifying silence. The only obstacle was a 15-foot-high terrace of volcanic ash. Marines sank to their knees in the soot, and LVD amphibious tractors ground to a halt, their tread spinning uselessly. Thousands of soldiers piled onto the beach, huddled together with nowhere to hide. That was exactly when Kurabayashi gave the order to fire. From the heights of Suribachi and the quarries on the far right, hundreds of machine guns and hidden cannons opened up simultaneously. The beach at Iwo Jima was instantly transformed into a massive slaughterhouse. Shells exploded amidst the crowded ranks. Shrapnel and black dust created a vision of the underworld. There was no cover, no retreat. This was the darkest day in the history of the United States Marine Corps. Despite the horrific casualties, the Marines surged forward with uncommon valor. By the 5th day, the image of 6 men raising the American flag atop Mount Suribachi became an immortal icon of victory. However, capturing the mountain was only the beginning of a much longer nightmare. The northern part of the island was where the true horror resided. The Marines nicknamed this area the Meat Grinder. It was a labyrinth of jagged limestone canyons and hidden crevices. Every time the Americans captured a hill on the surface, Japanese soldiers would emerge in the tunnels behind them in the dead of night. To survive, the Americans were forced into the blowtorch and corkscrew method. Zippo Sherman flamethrower tanks and demolition teams carrying satchel charges became the keys to victory. They poured liquid fire into cave openings or used white phosphorus grenades to suck the oxygen out of the bunkers. It was a war of the smell of burnt flesh, agonizing screams, and the constant fear lurking in the shadows. Progress was no longer measured in miles, but in yards, bloody, hard-won touchdowns. The battle dragged into its fourth and fifth weeks. The Japanese defenders were running out of water, often forced to drink sulfur-tainted liquid or whatever rain they could catch in the rocks. Disease and starvation took their toll, yet their resolve remained unshaken. General Kurabayashi knew the end was near. On the night of March 26, instead of traditional loud banzai charge, Kurabayashi led his final 300 men in a silent, lethal infiltration raid against Airfield No. 2. There were no screams, only the cold glint of swords and the quiet click of grenades in the dark. This raid inflicted heavy losses on American pilots and support units before the final Japanese resistance was annihilated. General Kurabayashi is believed to have died during this final assault, though his body was never found. He kept his vow. He died with the island, but he made the enemy pay the highest possible price for his soil. When the last gun fell silent, Iwo Jima was nothing more than a colossal cemetery. 18,892 Japanese soldiers lay dead. Only 216 had surrendered. The Americans suffered nearly 7,000 dead and over 19,000 wounded. For the first time in the Pacific War, total American casualties exceeded those of the Japanese. Iwo Jima left behind a controversial legacy. Many historians argue the island wasn't worth the bloodshed. But consider this. By the end of the war, 2,251 B-29s made emergency landings on Iwo Jima. That represents the lives of roughly 24,000 American airmen who returned home because of this tiny rock. The story of Iwo Jima isn't just about winning or losing. It's about the absolute limits of human courage and endurance. It reminds us of the staggering cost of freedom and the boundless cruelty of war. What do you think of General Kurabayashi's underground fortress strategy? Was he a military genius, or was it a tragic, futile effort? We'd love to hear your perspective in the comments below. If this video provided you with valuable historical insight, please give World War II stories a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next epic journey through the annals of history. Share this video with your fellow history buffs so we can spread the lessons of the past together. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in our next story of the Second World War.